Friday with some of the most trusted names in the field. Join us and step into the unknown with Ghost Box Radio with Greg Bakken, Monday through Friday at 10 p.m. Only if you dare.
Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in four directions. This is Robert Pilot of Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. I'm here to ask you for your support. Finding honest Native-centered news is not easy, but with your support, we're able to provide accurate information about Standing Rock, Line 3, treaty violations, and COVID-19 in our Native communities. Please visit Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon and donate if you can. That's Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon. Pinigigi, and thank you for your support.
This is Chad, owner of AM 950, here to tell you about the exterior construction company I trust, Snap Construction. If your home was hit with the most recent storms, trust the most well-reviewed exterior construction company, Snap Construction, for a free home inspection.
This is Ryan, owner of Snap Construction. There are a lot of great construction companies in town. My advice is to take your time and do your research. Make sure they are locally owned and that they guarantee their craftsmanship for life. Also, you want to find a company that's been in business for at least 10 years. You want to work with a company that's going to be there long after the work is done. Snap Construction has handled thousands of claims, and we'll help you through the process.
Don't go with the out-of-town fly-by-night contractor. Most storm damage goes missed by the untrained eye. Trust Snap Construction for your free storm damage evaluation. For your free storm damage evaluation, call Snap Construction at 612-333-SNAP or visit them online at snapconstruction.com. That's 612-333-SNAP or snapconstruction.com.
Hi, I'm Kelly Kirk.
I'm Chad Larson.
And I'm Joe Kirk.
Your hosts for Searching for Service. Tune into Rotary's influential show and podcast, sharing touching stories of service locally and abroad.
We bring you weekly guests that connect, inform, and inspire our listeners on all things service.
We highlight diverse service opportunities that appeal to both Rotarians and people driven to serve in their communities.
Tune in Sundays at 3 p.m. or anytime via podcast. It's time
to stop searching
and start serving.
With a look at your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Clear tonight with a low of 52, then sunshine on Saturday with a high of 70. Nightingale is your cozy, comfortable neighborhood bar and restaurant at 26th and Lyndale in Minneapolis. Come in for the famous Nightingale burger or the ginger tamari chicken wings. View their menu or place a takeout order at nightingalempls.com.
Portions of Native Roots Radio may be pre-recorded.
It's a good day to be indigenous.
Get up, stand up.
They are going to become more brutal.
Couldn't cut, hit me cut again.
Because all the hippies were trying to be Indians anyway.
They're going to become more repressive because it's a matter of dollars and their illusionary concepts of power.
Hey, Victor.
We must live in balance with the earth.
And also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee.
I am awake.
Welcome to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakan Tipi Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in four directions. You are listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot. We discuss local and national Native news and events. And as you know, Haley, Native issues are human issues, and human issues are Native issues.
They are, Daga. This portion of the show is supported by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Again, they've been a big supporter of Native Roots Radio for over 7 years, and we love supporting them too. We're here, and it's Friday, and it's, Wendy will come up later on in the show with Fun Facts Friday. And we're here with State Senator Mary Kunesh, and always a pleasure of Native Roots Radio and our people here listening to the show to have a nice little check-in on what's going on around Minnesota and nationally. Welcome, State Senator.
Aho matakiape, everybody.
Right on. So, I follow you on Facebook. I'm not a stalker. I just follow you. It pops up. But I see you have been ricing this weekend or this week, and I'd really like you to tell our audience about your experience and what that was like and how to do it. I think a lot of our allies and across Turtle Island here would love to hear about the food that grows on water.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll tell you, it was the most delightful weekend I've had in a long, long time. I had been invited by Rory Wake 'em Up. I think a lot of people in the Twin Cities know Rory. He's an artist and does just like fabulous community things and programs for the youth and the community as well. He is the guy that we have called upon to put up art exhibitions outside of our state capital here in Minnesota. So when we celebrated for the first time the missing and murdered Indigenous women's, he organized hundreds of people. He cut out, painted himself, but then organized hundreds of people to paint these red cardboard dresses that were then lined up in front of the entire front of the Minnesota State Capitol. And if you have ever visited it, there's a huge lawn. I mean, it's probably 5 or 6 blocks, in front of the Capitol. And then this past year, he brought in, boy, a dozen or more of his teepees. They're different colors. They've got different decorations and significance on them. He and his team were out there putting them up for a day or two before the exhibition, sleeping in their trucks to watch over them at night. But anyways, he and I have done some legislation together, trying to access dollars for artists that typically have not been getting the grants. So not like the big theaters and museums that you see, but the real small boots on the ground artists and programs. And so he sent me an email, said, hey, a bunch of people are getting together. You want to come up? And I said, heck yeah, I do. So when I told my kids that I was going to go up there, my daughter and her partner said, we want to go too. And so they brought their little girl up. And luckily enough, by the time we got to the campground, it was on some private owned land. There was a teepee left for me. So we got to sleep in one of Rory's teepees those 2 nights. So it was really fabulous. The weather the first day was a little overcast, which was fine. But this is in northern Minnesota, near Palisade, Minnesota. And keep forgetting the name of the lake. It's a tributary off of, I'll think about it, whatever the lake it was. And Rory and his team had a whole bunch of canoes, paddles and all. They had the life jackets. They had the big poles to pole through the water, through the rice. They had knocking sticks. And actually, the first night that I was there, people were whittling the knocking sticks right there around the fire. So it was really super cool. And so Rory took me out. I had been ricing, but it's been over a dozen years since I have, and kind of gave me the quick reminder of how to do it. And he polled, and we just talked the whole time about programming for Native communities, issues going on in the communities. I mean, I was a captive audience for him, shall we say.
Well, truth be told, we've had in our store, when we first opened, Rory brought down a child-size teepee for us, MMIW teepee, and then we had it at the fair the year before too. So he's out there in the community doing good things, and he's a very cool person.
Yeah. I mean, we all have our, to me, he's just been so amiable, so hospitable, so generous, so authentic. And so with it, I think we were out there maybe for an hour and a half. And when we came in, I probably had about 3 or 4 inches, maybe more, maybe 6 inches of rice in the bottom of the canoe. And so many people have told us when they were coming in, it's like, wow, this is a bumper crop. We haven't seen this kind of quality and quantity since the 70s. And so I just felt really, really fortunate to be able to get out there.
Wow, I wonder why that is, because last year there was a small amount because of the drought, and this year there was a drought too. So that's really interesting to
I
hear.
mean, the last couple of years have been a drought, so nobody is quite sure why. Who knows? I don't know the particular let's see, lifespan or adaptations that wild rice takes. Maybe they just got fed up with it and said, "This is the year we're going to do it."
Right.
But it was so cool, and there were lots of people there that came to the camp and went out rat racing, and then we were able to process it back at the camp. But there are a lot of non-native folks that come out and race too. In Minnesota, you need a racing license. And I bought mine, and then somebody said, well, my mom was an enrolled member of the Standing Rock Nation. And they're like, well, maybe you could have, gotten one using her number. But I don't mind if those dollars are going to go back into the DNR and the system in the right way. So it's just $26 for a license. And then curiously enough, we were finishing up right around 3:00, and Rory was telling me, I think we have to be off the lakes at 3:00. You can't race after 3, and we're not sure why. But my daughter and her partner went out as soon as I got back. I stayed with the baby, and they went out really quick. It was just around 3:00, and she probably won't like me telling you this, but probably within 4 minutes of going out, they tipped.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Oh my.
So they came back in, and we figured that was the God speaking to us,
Well, I'm not sure which daughter it is, so I guess I can't give her a hard time when I see her. Oh, she's safe.
I'll keep that one anonymous.
Yeah.
But they went out the next day on Sunday, and we're out there probably for 2.5 hours and just brought in a schnittload of rice. So they got their experience, and I got little Sylvie out in the boat. Rory took us out again just to paddle around and talk some more. And man, it was so relaxing. The weather on Sunday was even more beautiful. And you just meet all kinds of cool people right there. It's a public access. There was a group of 4 women that came out with 2 canoes, and they were, I would say 3 of them were a little elderly, 1 not so much, but it was really funny helping them and watching them get situated in their canoe. I thought we could do a really good res dog episode on this whole situation right here. It was really cute. But then we took it back to camp and started working on processing it. And maybe I'll tell you a little bit more about that.
Yeah, right on. Yeah, I'd like to hear about the processing and how much you brought back to the homestead. Hey, I'll be knocking on your door soon. Hey, you're listening to Native Roots Radio Presents I'm Awake, and here with State Senator Mary Kunesh. You're going to be right back after this short break.
Stay with us.
I heard sex trafficking happens a lot in Indian country. What is that?
Here are some of the real reasons why sex trafficking happens in Indian country. Unequal gender roles that were forced on us by colonization. Communities don't have enough resources. Silence around domestic and sexual violence. There's a lot of behavior that keeps our communities out of balance. These are just a few true reasons why Native communities are targeted by traffickers. When these acts of violence happen in our communities, it opens us all up for exploitation.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Fall is here and it's the season of changes. But you know what doesn't change? The fun and excitement at the National Eagle Center in Wabasha. Pack up the family for a perfect day trip and take a drive to Wabasha to join the celebration during their Soar Fall Flight Festival happening September 23rd and 24th. They're highlighting fall migration along the Mississippi River Flyway and celebrating Native American cultures and their connections to eagles. You'll meet the live eagle ambassadors, catch an exciting program in the beautiful Riverfront Amphitheater, and enjoy a front row seat to fall migration. You can explore Native and Indigenous cultures by visiting the exhibitor booths from Effigy Mounds National Monument, Indigenous artist Inkpa Manny, and Native American craftsman Dick Mindikowski. Plus, meet live birds from the Midwest Peregrine Society. Register for an unforgettable eagle viewing trip or behind-the-scenes experience and enjoy seasonal arts and crafts for all ages. It's a fall party with the Eagles, and you're invited. Get all the details online at nationaleaglecenter.org/soar and schedule your Eagle Fun today.
Are you ready to embark on a journey towards taking control of your health and well-being? I'm Candy Brothel, host of Green Tea Conversations. Join me every Sunday at 10 a.m. as I sit down with the local experts who are bridging the gap between mainstream medicine and complementary therapies. Each week, we explore topics in integrative medicine, nutrition, fitness, creative expression, personal growth, and sustainable living. So grab a cup of tea and join the conversation as we awaken to natural health. Visit us at naturaltwincities.com.
Hi, I'm Jane Fonda, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
And we're back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot. Hey, welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I am your host, Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is supported by the Native American Community Clinic on Franklin Avenue in Minneapolis, honoring health and tradition.
Yes, they do, and that's a great tagline. I'd like to have that for our show, but it's already out there stolen. I couldn't steal it from Dr. Stately. So, hey, we're here with State Senator Mary Kunesh, and we're kind of talking about her trip up to the deep north there, doing some ricing, and we kind of got stuck at the next step, and maybe you can fill our audience and Haley and I about what goes on next after you pound that rice into your canoe.
So yes, then there's a lot of work left before it is edible. You know, when you're out there in the rice beds, that the rice is, super duper tall, and there's tons of bugs. There's little worms. There, the leaves and everything is really itchy. So when you reach out and you kind of bend the blades over into the canoe and sort of swipe through it and give them some, a good whack or two. At one point, Rory's like, wow, that stuff's just jumping off into the canoe. It was that plentiful. But he had us through like the really thick areas. Cool. And then we brought it to shore, and we made sure that we got every single kernel, every bit of the rice, and put them in these big bags, like you might see flour come in or something like that. Took them back to camp, and then what we did is we started to parch the rice. So when you see the pieces of rice, they still have the coating on them, and then they have a little tail, like a little red tail on them. And so you put that in. They had a huge kettle. I'm sure it's one that they use for sugar bush, and a fire underneath, and you put a bunch in there, and you just keep stirring it around and around and around so it doesn't burn, but it burns off, the exterior and those little tails and anything else that's in there that shouldn't be in there. And then you have to put it in another big pot and let it cool off. And from there, you have to, get that hull off of it. And so once you have that, you toasted it or roasted it on the fire, then you have to get to thrashing it. And there's a couple of different ways. It was kind of funny because Rory's Aunt Betsy, who is a delightful woman, I was just getting to know her, and we were walking and talking the first night, and we were walking over to where they were parching the rice, and we're talking. Then just out of the blue, she says, "How much do you weigh?" I'm like, that's kind of personal. Right. And she's like, no. Anybody over a certain weight, and I won't say it, shouldn't thrash, step on the rice and to break the hulls off of them. So it's usually a younger, more agile, lighter weight individual, and probably women. So they had some young girls there. They dug a big hole, and they lined it, and they put some of the parched rice in there, and they tap, danced on it, tap, danced on it. Other times there's ways to, if you have like a big screen, and you lay it on there and shake it up, and maybe have a fan blow off the chaffee or whatever it is, whatever you don't want on it. And then I don't know what the next process is exactly. I mean, I don't know if you can eat it right from then. I did not bring any home because I forgot to go back to camp and get some. I mean, I have a little bag of the raw rice that I got out of my canoe, and then I have a bag of parched rice. But I have to do a little bit of more research, and they said they divvy it up once they've got it all done. But then the next morning, we laid out a bunch of tarps, and it was much sunnier day, warmer day, and then laid all the rice out, went through and got all the little worms out of it, all the pieces of grass or stem that we don't want in there, and then that was left out all day to dry and parch in the sun.
Oh wow!
So that's another, because we had so much. I mean, to do it like, kettle by kettle by kettle would take forever. So, and then, but I left, mid-morning and went back to the put-in spot, and I didn't go back to the camp. So I didn't see what they did after that, but, it's just a really, really great experience. And, here in Minnesota, we've tried to put a lot of bits of legislation in place to protect the wild rice.
Right.
Sulfide is not good. High levels of sulfide is not good for wild rice. And in northern Minnesota, because of the mining and other things going on up there, that there have been incompatible levels of sulfite. And so the U of M did a study, and they gave their recommendation. And there are people that will argue both sides. But what our legislators did not know or understand is that wild rice is sacred. I mean, it is absolutely sacred to the indigenous people, almost like that Holy Eucharist wafer for the Catholic or the Christians, it's that sacred. And, the story is that centuries and centuries ago, of course, Minnesota was occupied by the Dakota people, and the Anishinaabe were over on the East Coast, and one of their elders their spiritual people elders had a vision that said, you need to start moving. You need to start moving west and continue moving until you find the land where the food grows on the water. And then that's where you reestablish these, this culture and these people. And so they did. It took them, a long, long, long time to get all the way to Minnesota. But once they got to the point and found the wild rice, they knew that they had come to their sacred place. And, very quickly, became a part of the cultures of Minnesota and Canada and Michigan. And so when we do legislation, we always are trying to educate people why these things are important. There's historical context, there's cultural, there's religious, and wild rice is a superfood.
Yeah, it is.
Somebody told me up there that if you had nothing to eat for the rest of your life but wild rice, you could live on wild rice.
Absolutely.
So,
and not only the Dakotas, but Ho-Chunk that have been here 10,000 years, they've been ricing too. And I was, I was kind of surprised to hear that, because I thought it was pretty much Ojibwe, but the tribes in the Midwest here do that too. And it was like, oh, okay, cool. I didn't really know.
Yeah, remember, there were no borders. There was no Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, Dakota. I mean, Canada, this was just Indian country. And, while not all of our tribes in this area or the indigenous people were nomadic, they did move, and use different parts of the lands at different seasons for different reasons.
Right.
And
so They weren't nomadic then. They had purpose of where they were going.
Yeah.
And then the Ojibwe came from out east and were pushed out here too for
Yep.
colonization. So they've only been here, a couple hundred years. And really, they've really acclimated. And like you said, what is it called again? Not the traveling story. What did you call that again?
Their creation story? No,
No,
it's not their creation story.
I
There's
always get this mixed up too because I've had Misko school me on this because she's Ojibwe too and tell me about it because I
the
was
Great Migration to the Sacred Site.
something like that. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's a mouthful, but yeah, that's so interesting too. And if traditional native food, I just had a salad last night because we had our area picnic here for Ho Chunk in St. Paul, and the salad had rice in it, had berries in it, and
Yeah.
it was cold salad. It was delicious, and there's laws too that protect the rice. And I know as a legislator and talking to other nations across Turtle Island, it's a thing too where people mislabel things when it comes to our rice, and so there's laws out there against that too.
Mhm.
Because you can go on Amazon.com and buy wild rice, but where's it from and who's doing it? And our number one place to get wild rice as our family and our store is Leech Lake, and
Mhm.
my son-in-law is a member of a citizen of Leech Lake too, so it's the best rice out there. And
That's so funny because I think just about every tribe is making claim to having the best rice. It's like the rice wars, right?
well, from my taste buds, I would have to say the lighter what is it? The lighter the color, the better the tasting. Now,
Yeah.
I don't know if you agree with that, but that's what I've come across.
I like a real nutty wild rice.
Oh,
So, yeah.
we'll have to talk about that next week. No,
Yeah.
hey,
Nuts.
we're here with State Senator Mary Kunesh, and we're talking, just having our normal Friday conversation. We got another segment with her, so please stay with us. You're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States.
And 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected.
Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf.
Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy.
As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired.
Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
No matter if you're eating out or cooking something at home, eatlocalminnesota.com has you covered with a list of locally owned restaurants and food purveyors. Locally owned Vinaigrette has been offering the finest olive oil and vinegar since 2009. Reintroduce yourself to all the many flavors by tasting before you buy. From darker white balsamic to cold-pressed extra virgin olive oil from all over the world, there is something for everyone. Vinaigrette, located at 50th and Xerxes in Minneapolis, or at vinaigrettemn.com. The Park Tavern is your go-to destination for fun. Enjoy the fantastic food like their pizzas, burgers, and sandwiches, the best bowling in Minnesota, their wildly popular outdoor patio, great drink specials, all the big games on their numerous screens, and it's the perfect place for your next private event, even large gatherings for over 200. The Park Tavern is your go-to destination for everyone. Have fun at the Park Tavern, Louisiana Avenue, north of Highway 7 in St. Louis Park.
I love my Toyota vehicles, so when I have to get service done, there's only one place I go, Rudy Luther Toyota. They know Toyotas inside and out. It starts with them checking your alignment and tire treads with their Hunter Quick Check Drive inspection service. Oil changes, tires, batteries, wipers, no matter what you need done, they can help you with reliable Toyota parts and the best service team in Minnesota. Check out their website, rudyluthertoyota.com, for service and parts specials just for Toyota vehicles. Get your Toyota serviced at Rudy Luther Toyota, 394 and 169 in Golden Valley.
Whether you rent or own a home, we all likely have nightmare stories about home maintenance, or what I like to call home cringe moments. Join me, your host, Katie Shahan, for the Yarlow Home Cringe Show. See what home cringe-worthy stories we have for you each week as we talk with local home service pros. Learn best practices for winterizing your home or what to look for after a hailstorm. Listen to the Yarlow Home Cringe Show every Sunday at 2 p.m. or on your favorite podcast app.
Hey, it's Patrick. It seems like all kids do during summer is drag dirt into the house. The good news? The kids are back in school. And fortunately, there is Zero Res. Zero Res is the healthy way to get your home feeling fresh and clean again. Even if your house doesn't look dirty, you need to call Zero Res to remove the dust, dander, and bacteria in your carpet from a summer of fun. Lucky for you, you can score big this month with great savings. Right now, you can get your entire home Zero Resified from Minnesota's ultimate carpet cleaner and get 3 rooms of carpet cleaned starting at just $149. It's also a perfect time of year to get your air ducts cleaned this month with $100 off your air duct cleaning. An air duct cleaning will help alleviate allergies and asthma. You will enjoy less dust, lower energy bills, and your home will stay cleaner longer. Schedule your appointment today at ZeroResMinnesota.com or by calling 952-ZERO-RES and asking for the AM 950 special. Zero Res. With a look at your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Clear tonight with a low of 52, then sunshine on Saturday with a high of 70. Nightingale is your cozy, comfortable neighborhood bar and restaurant at 26th and Lyndale in Minneapolis. Come in for the famous Nightingale burger or the ginger tamari chicken wings. View their menu or place a takeout order at nightingalempls.com.
This is Leonard Peltier. I'm in Coleman 1, U.S. Penitentiary, and I'm listening to Native Roots Radio.
And we're back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot. Hey, welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I am your host, Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is supported by JS Bean Factory off Randolph Avenue in St. Paul, bringing you only the best coffee roasted to perfection.
Yeah, you know, and I also want to give a quick shout out to all the people that support us on Patreon. And just look up Native Roots Network on Patreon and become a subscriber. We really appreciate that. And we can do more things, and appreciate everyone's support, because I always get asked, how can I support you? And I said, well, you know, take care of our advertisers, and here's another direct way too. So we appreciate all the supporters, and especially during COVID when all the advertising, if you remember, it was a dark day. All of the businesses closed and the advertisers slowed down, and we had so much great support from our Patreon supporters. And again, Patreon at Native Roots Network. Hey, we're here with State Senator Mary Kunesh, and you know, I always get FOMO when I hear these. There a lot of times there's 3 or 4 things going on. I wish we had a calendar which everyone could check.
Yeah.
What's going on, because I can only be in one place, and I rarely, you know, barely can do that. And you were at a great little get together last night.
Ugh. It was a lovely, lovely evening. You're right. I went to the fundraiser for the Wakan Tipi here in St. Paul. We were down on Harriet Island, which is a small island on the Mississippi River, right downtown St. Paul, and had a lovely evening. It was catered by Trickster Tacos, so you know it was absolutely delicious. But it was a fundraiser for Wakan Tipi, which is a nonprofit organization that is taking back and restoring the sacred site in downtown St. Paul. It's right again on the Mississippi River. And Maggie
Lorenz.
Lorenz. I wanted to say LeBeau. I don't know why. Maggie Lorenz has been the executive direction for a long, long time. And she has just taken it from an idea and kind of a trash area to getting millions and millions of dollars to build a interpretation center down there. And so we had the fundraiser last night. There were lots of folks down there, and what was really lovely, it was family family friendly. So I brought my 2 little granddaughters because Thursday night is their sleepover night, and then all day Friday with me. But we went there, and my younger sister Anne was there, and it was beautiful. Maggie's daughter sang the most beautiful, beautiful song. It was just, how good it feels when you're in community. It was one of those times where you drive home thinking that was best thing I could have done. Yeah.
Yeah, and to talk a little bit about Wakan Tipi down there, it's below the birthing caves, and also the 3 mounds that are left over in Mounds Park. It's right down in that area, and I know the railroad was down there big time, and it was a massive cleanup effort down there that Maggie helped with, and Wakan Tipi. They put tons and tons of new soil in there because it was so contaminated down there at one time.
Yeah, this is where it's on the Mississippi River, and at one time the railroad followed right along the Mississippi River. So there's railroad ties and all the debris and all the pollution from there. But there's it butts up onto the sacred it's not sandstone, limestone
Right.
cliffs, and within those cliffs is a sacred site. There's a cave, and there used to be drawings on there and hieroglyphics that got chiseled away or destroyed because it was also used. So the railroad used it for storage. Like when they get these big loads off the trains, there's a kind of a dry plateau, and then it goes up to the cliffs. And then there was discussion, at one point, I think that it might have been used by bootleggers because that's a perfect way to bring in illegal alcohol during Prohibition time. But it was desecrated, it was destroyed, and with Maggie's guidance and a lot of hard work by a lot of wonderful people, they've got it cleaned up. The state of Minnesota appropriated a couple $1 million to help with that process, and then to create this interpretive center. But it's also a nature preserve now, so there are walkways down there, and it's filled with indigenous grasses and flowers. Birds have come back like crazy. Animals that are live in that kind of a prairie landscape are back, and it's just a lovely little place right in downtown Minneapolis or St. Paul. And I'm just so proud to. I worked on legislation to get those dollars to the project, and I can't think of. I can think of a lot of things, but this is one of the things I am most proud of at the legislature having completed.
Yeah, when I was a teacher, when we brought students down there and planted berries and sage and sweetgrass. It was really fun. We brought about 30 native students down there, and it spent half a day down there just planting stuff. And to my understanding, so that was like 2 or 3 years ago, that this stuff has really flourished down there that we planted. So that's exciting to hear and talk about.
Yeah. And so I think they'll be breaking ground on the work that they're doing for the building, and just really excited to think about what the potential, untapped potential is there. And I would really encourage folks to go to the Wakan Tipi website. It's WAKANTIPI.org. There's so much information down there or on the website about the Wakan Tipi Bruce Vento Nature Sanctuary. There's information about the Indian mounds. Swede Hollow Park is where a lot of the immigrants that came over, kind of built up their shacks. Pig's Eye, and Boys Totem Town proper. There's so much information on there. And then under some of the programming, there's tons of really great things and resources. And of course, okay, this is another thing. I get really excited because not only have they been working on creating this Wakan Tipi Center, but they're also been working on daylighting Phelan Creek.
Right.
Which, you remember that?
Right.
Yeah. And so this is a creek that actually got covered up and sort of buried and was flowing underground, but that was not the original, way that it did it, it's tributary. And so they've been unearthing it and restoring it back into its natural, and that creek flows down into the Mississippi River right down there. So there's just lots of really cool things doing. And I'm just going to put it out there, folks. If you're listening to this and you want to support a really great Indigenous program, look up the Wakan Tipi. And if you've got a few dollars to donate, or if you got a lot of dollars to donate, please do so, because it's just an incredible asset to our communities.
Well, what's interesting, I don't know, Mary, if you're familiar with Hidden Falls.
Mm-hmm.
They did the same thing, and now the falls are rolling. And before, it was falls, and then after that, it was buried, and now it's been daylighted. And before, it only ran if it rained. The falls would only work if it rained, and now the falls are continuously water going through there, and it's a thing. It's really cool. It's really cool to see.
It is, and I'm just really proud of the way Minnesotans, not just the Indigenous people, but non-Indigenous people, are beginning to recognize how important it is that we restore some of these natural aspects to our communities, how much we've lost.
Yeah.
There was a gentleman sitting at my table last night, and he was there because the city of Bloomington is looking to do, some restoring some names to different places and acknowledging the existence of our ancestors. And this is just a gentleman who has taken Dakota the language, and he's for years been studying it and has such a keen interest, but also respect. It's not just, he's not using it in any way other than his own personal and then advocating for it. But it's just, Minnesota is really coming along in that area. Not everywhere, but in Minnesota, but lots of really good nuggets of communities that are acknowledging the beautiful history that is Minnesota.
I often wonder what we're going to talk about every Friday, but we always have a good time, and we really did a couple segments on ricing and this program to see Wakan Tipi specifically, how much they've grown and become a thing here in St. Paul specifically. But what a great, just to think about the positive stuff once in a while is really, because everything's so daunting. And I just really appreciate you bringing these things up. It's, I think about that because I've watched that. I've known Maggie for years too, and watched her work. And your sister was on the board years ago, and just how we're all interconnected too.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, again, really, really appreciate you stopping in and having this fireside chat with us. Really, it's awesome, State Senator. Hey, up next, Wendy Pilot with our Sacred Animal section. We're going to be right back after this short break. Please stay with us. You're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake.
Be my way, be my blessing.
J&S Bean Factory is a native-owned, community-supported, cozy, artsy coffee shop which offers roasted on-site beans, live music, and baked goods. Relax in the beautiful outside patio. City Pages writes, voted top 10 coffee shops. Tucked into a quiet corner of St. Paul's Highland Park neighborhood, this coffee shop roasts beans on-site from the best coffee-growing countries in the world. Located at 1518 Randolph Avenue, St. Paul. The good stuff.
Get ready for one of the coolest music events of the year. The 11th Powderhorn Porch Fest will showcase top-notch local artists spanning indie, rock, country, blues, and more on 3 porches that will transform into stages. Powderhorn Porch Fest is Saturday, September 16th from 4 to 10 p.m. along 17th Avenue between 32nd and 34th Streets. Featured are 13 talented artists and the electrifying Nerd D opening and closing the show. And it's not just about the tunes. Enjoy sweet and savory delights from food trucks and cool merch from local vendors. Don't miss the Reverie Cafe and Beer Garden, back for the 3rd year, perfectly complementing the music and festivities. Hosted by the Powderhorn Park Neighborhood Association and neighbors on 17th Avenue, this festival showcases strong cross-neighborhood partnerships. Powderhorn Porch Fest isn't just a music festival, it energizes our South Minneapolis community and supports local programs and services. Again, that's Saturday, September 16th from 4 to 10 p.m. along 17th Avenue between 32nd and 34th Streets. Learn more at ppna.org.
Tune in this Saturday morning right here on AM 950 from 7 to 8 a.m. for the Gardening with Joy and Holly radio show. We'll be discussing how you can grow indoors all winter long, as well as lawnmower and small engine end-of-season maintenance. Our guest is from kidsgardening.org, Emily Shipman, and we'll answer your garden questions. That's all this Saturday morning from 7 to 8 a.m. right here on AM 950. Tell a friend and let's grow together.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is supported by Howling for Wolves, protecting wolves for future generations. How? Hey, Kadagi, welcome back. Producer Haley Cherry here with you. Shashape Wangawenik, that means Little Eagle Princess. I am Ho Chunk Nation Eagle Clan descendant. Host Robert Pilot, and I hope to be at the Mankato Wachipi or Mankato Powwow this Sunday. So if you see us, please come say hi, as we'd love to hear from you. With that being said, I'd like to introduce this last segment of our show. Here is Humane Policy Advocate Wendy Pilot with this week's Sacred Animals Fun Fact Friday.
Thank you, Haley. Hey, everybody. My name is Hanaji Hihani. That means cares for them. I was given that name by my Dega, Curtis. Curtis goes by Mashke Hanajingo, which means walks on white clouds. I'm a Humane Policy Volunteer Leader for the Humane Society of the United States, and I work on animal issues at the local and state level, and it's always my pleasure to do that. Today is Friday, so we have always a Fun Fact Friday that I share, and today I have a really sweet story about Scout. Scout was living at the Antrim County Animal Shelter in Bel Air, Michigan, until he repeatedly escaped to a nearby nursing home. Residents there were such a fan that they ended up adopting Scout. So Scout's journey began when he was discovered by a midnight nurse lying on the couch in the nursing home's lobby. The Animal Control Center, located across the highway from Meadowbrook, was called to pick him up. However, within the same week, Scout was found on the same couch 2 more times. He had scaled fences at the animal shelter and navigated his way across the busy highway to enter the nursing home building through automatic doors. Recognizing Scout's determination to be at Meadowbrook, the nursing home's administrator, who has a special place in her heart for animals, decided to adopt him. When Scout first arrived, he was timid. He also had BBs lodged in his face, which the vet discovered. Although the BBs don't seem to cause him any trouble, they are part of his mysterious traumatic past. One resident perfectly described the impact of having Scout in the nursing home, saying that it makes the facility seem more like a home rather than an institution. This is especially true for those who had dogs in the past. Scout is loving, social, and has strong intuition for when someone is sick or feeling down. He spends extra time with those individuals, providing comfort and companionship. And another story that I read about Scout, the administrators said that Scout will search out people who need him, who are depressed, who are sad. And she said that even there were some residents who actually were passing, and he would go on the bed with them and stay with them until they passed. So he's a really special dog. Scout's backstory remains a mystery, as the shelter had no information about him, no vet papers, and no chip. There is some speculation that he may have once belonged to a resident at the nursing home, which could explain his determination to be there. Regardless of his past, Scout knows where his home is now and shows no desire to leave. Even when taken for walks in the hall, he remains off leash and doesn't approach the automatic doors that he once used to enter the building. Scout's presence at Meadowbrook Nursing Home has brought joy and comfort to the residents and staff, providing that sometimes home is where the heart is or where the dog is. So it's a really cute story. There's even a couple of videos on it. You just have to Google Scout, the dog who went to the nursing home, and all the articles come up about Scout. And I just really feel like animals have like a special instinct, and they're guided by something we don't understand, and they do things that we just can't even imagine. My sister had a cat. She had two cats, Bonnie and Clyde. I ended up having Clyde later on, but that's a whole nother story. But Bonnie, the cat, lived with my sister and her husband and my little baby niece. But she lived across the street, and down a little ways there was a hospital there. And Bonnie would go walk down the street every day, get out of the house, and go and walk into the hospital. And the cat had a little tag on it with the name and phone number. And every day my sister would get a call. Your cat is walking through the emergency room. Your cat was found on the second floor of the whatever. And every day my sister would be like, oh my God, I can't keep the cat in. The cat wants to be in the emergency room and in the hospital and walk around. And my sister's just like, I have no control. I can't control this cat. This cat escapes the house. I can't keep her in. And I don't know why she wants to be in the hospital, but she does. One day, then they were starting to get mad at my sister. And then one day Bonnie just never came home, and that was the end of Bonnie. But my sister just feels like one of the nurses or somebody there got the cat from like the parking lot or whatever, and just, took the cat home or whatever. So it didn't go, or maybe brought it to the shelter. We don't know. We don't know the story behind Bonnie, but there was a pull. The cat was pulled to go to the hospital. So it's just weird how animals do that. There's another story you could look up. This is a story about a dog in El Paso, Texas, who spent a really long time at the shelter. And finally, the dog was adopted. And after a couple of days at the new home, the dog escaped and traveled 10 miles back to the shelter. And it took the dog 3 days to navigate and to get back to the shelter. And the dog was seen on the camera outside ringing the shelter doorbell. And they came out and they were like, oh my God, this dog just, was adopted, and now the dog's back at the shelter. The dog was at the shelter for so long, and he just loved the staff there. And this is where the dog felt comfortable. So the dog didn't want to be adopted and wanted to stay at the shelter. That's the first I've ever heard of. But, the dog was comfortable there, had its place. The staff was nice to the dog, and the dog just felt safe. So there's so many stories out there about animals doing unusual things, and we don't really understand why. And Wanda and the dogs that we've had in the past, and even our cats that we've had in the past, have always shown us love and support. And Robert and I always talk about Wanda being our funny dog, and how she just does funny things, and she follows us around, and she sneaks down in the basement when she's not supposed to. And they just really bring us a lot of joy. And it's always nice to have them around. But yeah, I'll look up a few more stories and share them with you. It's always my pleasure to do that. So with that, back to you, Haley, back to you, Robert. Everybody, it's Friday. Have a great weekend and take it easy.
Hey, Big Pina Gigi, thank you to Minnesota State Senator Mary Kunesh and Wendy Pilot. Have a great weekend, everyone. You have been listening to Native Roots Radio Presents I'm Awake. The American Dream is a reason. Is a dream for a reason. You have to be asleep to believe it. Wake up with us. We are still here. We are the 7th generation. Free Leonard Peltier now.
Hey, Minnesota, it's your favorite sexy liberal. Join me and my fellow cohorts in liberal justice weekdays from 8 to 11 on AM 950 KTNF, St. Louis Park, Minneapolis, St. Paul, the progressive voice of Minnesota.